Welcome to the Salty Politics Live. Happy Halloween, everybody. I'm here with my friends, Dana Dubois and Lawrence Winterman, who are fantastic. And hopefully, as you guys get to know them better, you will check out their Substacks and subscribe. But you guys, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. What did you come dressed as,
I came
Lawrence?
to, Lawrence, what do you, Lawrence, what is
I'm
that?
clearly
Slum,
on the side of Ukraine. I'm a freedom fighter for Ukraine.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Sitting in Indiana, right?
Yes, in the middle of Indiana. Absolutely.
Awesome. What about you, Dana?
I think I'm here as just like an independent journalist who wants democracy to live on through people sharing unvarnished truths online.
I came as a really exhausted mom because I have had
Oh my
one
God,
and Dana.
I'm that too.
I know you can relate. It's been one of those weeks where, you have a teenager in the house and yeah, you've got two of them. I don't know how you do it with two. Two is a lot. I have to it's his last year trick-or-treating. He's in 8th grade, and I think this is it. I think this is starting in high school. You don't do it anymore. So we are going, there's a very famous street here in New York, the New York Times actually just wrote about, which is like the Halloween place, these 2 blocks that are really like the places to go trick-or-treating, and it so happens to be my neighborhood. So we are doing it, and he's doing it with some friends, and I'm taking him. And
all right, do they have full-size candy bars?
You know what? I am so blessed because he hates chocolate.
Oh my gosh.
And he hates peanut butter. So guess who gets to eat all of the Reese's peanut butter cups?
That's a dream. That is the dream.
Like, I make out like a bandit. Like, I cannot even begin to tell you how amazing my weekend's going to be because all he eats is crappy, like
Airheads, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the really disgusting stuff that like I never liked, like Skittles and like
Laugh Happy.
Yeah. Just the stuff that like I like never ever liked. So I get to enjoy all of the stuff that he would otherwise throw away. And I'm like, wait a second before you do.
Wow.
I will be taking that. So I'm gonna have a very good Halloween.
Do you do the rationing of candy or anything like that? I know that.
You know what, Dana, I don't know how you feel. Like, I'm so tired all the time. I really pick and choose my fights, and like I just don't have energy for I just don't have energy for that. And he'll like just wear me down. So at some point after like 2 seconds of saying you can't eat that, I'm like, just eat. I don't even care. Just go. Just leave me to my like misery.
Bounce off the walls at 3 a.m. and that's not my problem.
I mean, like
oh my gosh.
There are mothers who have time for that, and I love it, and I wish I was one of them. I just don't have the energy to fight every little fight, and it's really
same. And
I know.
Here's a justification for you. You can say, my child needs to learn how to self-regulate. And if I dictate how much candy he or she can have every Halloween, they never learn. And so go big. And I also, I think it's okay to teach them that infrequently, but sometimes just go for it. Just go to excess and revel in the joy of it, eat all the candy, and then deal with the consequences.
It's like he walked to school today. So he walks to school because we live in the city, and it's freezing out. And I didn't even notice, but he did not take his jacket. And my mother, he usually calls my mother on his walk, which is very nice. He calls his grandmother on his walk home and his walk to school. It's very sweet. And she calls me. She goes, his teeth were chattering and he was freezing. And I'm worried he's going to get pneumonia. And you have to really like keep an eye on him and make sure he wears his jacket. And I'm like, you know what? This would be a good lesson to him.
Right.
I'm like,
you're
going to be freezing. Now you know. Next time you're going to take a jacket. But the problem is next time, of course, he will still not take a jacket because he'll still just not do it.
They are little hot water bottles when they're this young. I swear, my little Northwest kids do the same thing. It'll be raining and cold, and they're like, I don't want to carry a coat. There's this, I wish I could find this story because I don't even remember who published it, but it was about the idea of, I don't remember, helicopter parenting or steamroller parenting or whichever parenting thing we're being yelled at the moment. And they're giving examples of like non-resilient kids. And one of them was talking, I think it was the idea of not helicopter parenting, but steamroller parenting. So you're clearing a path for your child all the time. Was the idea. And the example that they gave was of a child who has like like allergy sensitivities, but just didn't like textures and was a very fussy eater.
That's
and
my
then her mom, before she would go anywhere, would call ahead, like on a play date or whatever, would be like, little Susie doesn't like gravy on any of her food. You have to take all the sauces off of her food. And so everywhere she went, that happened for her. And then they described that she goes on to college and she ends up dropping out of college because the college dorm cafeteria had gravy on all their food and she didn't know how to cope. And so she left school, which, okay, hyperbolic case, but it's become like language in my household with my kids that I'm like, I never want to have the kid who can't just scrape the gravy off or walk in and say, hey, can you make mine without gravy? So it's like part of our lexicon. And I feel like when they're like 5, you can force them to wear their coats because they're just pure id and they don't know anything yet. But as teenagers, I call it my benign neglect method of parenting. It has nothing to do with how overworked and stressed out I am. Haha, it does. That I don't have time to micromanage all their stuff, but I'm trying to tell myself that maybe that's good, that they're learning resilience.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on this whole parenting thing on the show, but poor Lawrence is sitting here being like, stop boring me. But I will just end with this. Mine, I think, so relies on me for stuff that he literally will come home and I'm like, do you have any homework tomorrow? He's like, I don't know. Can you check? I'm like, can I check whether you have homework? Like, no, I cannot check whether you have homework. Like, you should check whether you have homework. And then 3 hours later, I'm like, have you checked whether you have homework? And he's like, yeah, I'll get to it. So then, of course, I end up checking. I'm like, you've got 5 hours of homework and you're still sitting here on your Xbox. So,
Oh my God.
it's anyway. So, you guys, speaking of all of this, we are all Gen Xers, right? We're all the best generation ever, the most underrated, underappreciated generation. And if you don't know if you're not Gen X, you kind of don't know about Gen X because we're so overlooked. That's the whole point of us.
Right.
But it's like Narnia or like what I call Central New Jersey. People don't think it exists, but it does.
I've heard your Central New Jersey theory before, Julie.
Yes.
Is Central New Jersey not what I have to admit I don't get the reference.
The reference is that people who live in North Jersey or South Jersey don't think Central Jersey exists. They consider Central Jersey to be, if they're from South Jersey, they consider it to be North Jersey. And if they're from North Jersey, they consider it to be South Jersey.
Okay.
And I frankly am offended at that notion because Central Jersey does exist and it's the most magical place around. And, if you don't want to believe that it exists, then you don't belong there. And that's all there is to it. Much like Gen X. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with geography as I sit here in New York City.
No, I like it. So it's actually like a secret magical spot, just like
it is. It's Narnia.
Okay.
It's like Santa. If you believe in it, he's real. But I want to talk about AI, you guys, because I think you've talked about this on your show before.
Yeah.
And there are all these tech layoffs happening right now, or not tech layoffs, there are all these layoffs happening of white collar workers right now because of AI. I don't have the stats in front of me, but some pretty startling stats about how I think it was Amazon and I forgot who else laid off a ton of their white collar staff. I'm not talking about the people who stock
right.
stock
Target, Meta,
yeah.
30,000 at Amazon. Like not an insignificant number.
Yeah. And
not yet.
Not yet.
Half that amount. And then the rest is coming later.
And it's interesting because my husband is a lawyer and he was saying that he was talking to a few other lawyers, not in his firm, but elsewhere, who basically said, yeah, we now have people taking a crack at briefs on ChatGPT and then, they go over it. But you need fewer people to do this now because it's just easier. Like things that you could have gotten accomplished in 5 hours, you can now get accomplished in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, like I have checked out ChatGPT and I would say that 35 to 40% of the time, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
I Google, I didn't Google, I put myself into ChatGPT and this was a few months ago, so maybe it's gotten more accurate. And I would say maybe a third of what they said about me was just false. And when I pressed ChatGPT and I was like, why would you say that Julia Roginski's ex? I forgot what it was. They're like, oh, my bad. You're right. Like they had me dating this former anchor on CNBC.
Ooh, is it cute?
Well, that's not the
My
point.
first question, is he hot?
I'm gonna decline to answer that question because if it's still in there, you might
Right.
Google. Yeah, I don't want to offend him.
I mean, tongue in
Uh,
cheek. They're the Chat GPT matchmaker, but
yeah, right.
unwanted matchmaker.
I used to work at CNBC, and I
Yeah.
sometimes anchored a show with him jointly, or I would appear in a show sometimes. Um, but I certainly never dated him. So I asked, I was like, "Why would you say that she dated this person?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, my bad. You're right. She didn't date him." I'm like, is there any evidence that she knows this person?" And they're like, "Well, we have no evidence that I did know him, but like, we have no evidence that she actually doesn't even know him." And I was like, okay, so I have to now fact check ChatGPT to provide evidence of stuff.
Right.
And so, you
And
know,
it's supposed to be the opposite of that, right? Like, it
right.
does the fact checking for me, I
Yeah.
thought.
And so not only is this kind of scary, but also what I find really scary, which nobody has really paid attention to, is if you're not out there, if you work in politics or you work in PR or you work in crisis comms or any of these things, if you're not out there training these, whether it's ChatGPT or any of these other um, AI systems to say what you want them to say, things are going to be accepted as fact and become fact. And conversely,
That's
people who want to create mischief might want to train them in the opposite direction. So
Yeah.
I think that's actually really scary.
It is. So Dana and I both have worked in the tech field, and we talk about this on the Daily Whatever show. I've never seen a product that was less ready for prime time than AI, right? Because I've absolutely had those experiences with ChatGPT where it just hallucinates something or it says
Mhm.
something that is provably false. And I heard somebody connect the dots a couple of weeks ago that really made me kind of sit up straighter, which was, if you were trying to build an authoritarian regime and you were trying to do something kind of 1984ish where you controlled history and you controlled what the actual accepted reality was, you'd kind of want a tool like
Yeah.
AI to basically filter what people are finding in their search results, because you could literally change it and train it to say whatever you want it to say. So yeah, I think it's a big deal. I think we're not maybe freaked out enough about what AI means for us as a society, like job layoffs notwithstanding, but just as a
Yeah.
general like reality engine.
Yeah, to layer on top of that, we're all Gen X, as you said, and I think I hear in my head sometimes this worry that people are like, "Oh, you're just old," and like, what I don't want this conversation to come off as is like, "Back in the old days, we used typewriters, and it was
Yeah.
great. We did our own research and encyclopedias." Like, I think all three of us are people who have stayed very up and current on technology. We don't
Right.
fear technology.
No, I
Lawrence and
mean,
I
you
both.
guys you both work in the tech sector, right? Or both of
Yeah,
you used to at least. Yeah.
yeah, and I use ChatGPT as a writer, as an assistant. I think and of course, encounter it all over in all parts of life, which we'll talk about during the show, different examples. And so we're not raising the alarm as like Luddites. We're not raising an alarm to be like anti-progress. What's really it's such a small thing that triggered the conversation for Lawrence and I this week. So we run a daily podcast, as you know, called The Daily
Yep.
Whatever Show. And one thing that we use AI for is Substack does not capture a chat, right? Like when you post a recap of an episode, the chat disappears. And we have a very engaged audience in our chat, which is lovely.
Mhm.
Hopefully a lot of folks are here today. And so we cut and paste the contents of the chat and dump it into Chat GPT. Lawrence has trained it to write a script that extracts the usernames, and then we put them in the recap so that we're tagging folks to say, "Thank you, we know you were here." And it works really well. Like, what percent of the time would you say, Lawrence? 85% of the time?
It's interesting because it every time I have to kind of restart it and kind of retrain it, it works great for several weeks at a time, and then it hits this moment where it starts to hallucinate. And I was joking with Dana, Julie, a couple days ago, I plugged in the stuff and it said you had attended our show that day, and Karen Attia and, Cliff Schechter, like a bunch of people that we talked to, but not everybody, this was not the list of people who were actually in the chat on that particular day. And then it added like my business name and the boss that I worked for, in high school, who's the subject of a science fiction short story. Like,
who died 40 years ago, by the way.
Right, who died of AIDS, 40 years ago. And so I was pretty sure he was not in the chat. And it's just this weirdness where out of nowhere it gets a wild hair and just loses all reasoning. And, you know, uh, if you're trying to do that in a business setting, if you're trying to, your husband in the lawyer setting, right? Like, if you're an attorney and you're relying on it to write a brief and it's going to do it correctly for maybe 3 weeks and then suddenly go rogue, you don't, not only do you need a human in the loop to review everything, why isn't a human just doing it to begin with?
Well, I'll go a step further. Now, let's take that to its logical conclusion. Let's say they use ChatGPT to write a brief and they cite some case that does not exist, right? And the judge has never heard of this case. So the judge goes back to try to find out what this case is. And the judge also finds this case that does not exist. And the judge rules based on a court case that never existed.
Yeah.
And, to which logical conclusion are we taking this? Are we taking this all the way to the Supreme Court? Now, by that point, they'll probably figure out that it's not accurate, but who knows? And as you said, this is how you define reality. This is how you change reality. This is how you change history. It is deeply frightening. It's not just about people using ChatGPT to write their Substacks and people are like, oh my God, I don't like that either. Because I think it's just, to each their own, but I don't think why bother then?
Right.
But let's say that like, whatever, that's one thing. But now if we're talking about deciding people's fates based on information that just never existed, but somebody decided to put that in there, that's really terrifying.
I would say the scenario you just outlined is almost 100% certain to happen, right? Like, I can't imagine, like I said before, I've never seen a product that's so not ready for prime time. If any other product was released onto the market that had an error rate of, 30 to 50% and at random times, half the time it's correct and spot on, but the other half of the time it just absolutely makes things up out of nowhere. Right. You would never introduce that to the market. You'd certainly never base your entire business on it. Right.
Your MRI scan that you just had, we trust it like 75% of the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's life and death stuff. That's the part that's really kind of frightening. And yes. I'll go back to the example of what they said about me dating this guy. Like, let's assume that he was married and had kids at the time that they said I dated him. Like, that would be problematic.
Yeah.
Right? Even things like that, even something that's silly, but it's not particularly silly if it affects people's human lives.
Right. What if he were filing for,
let's say he was filing
for divorce.
And and she's like, really? And like, here you are, you dated this woman. And he's like, what are you talking about? And no, I haven't.
It's here, it's online.
It's here, it's online. And, it creates so many problems for so many things. And yet we never talk about it. More and more we rely on it. I'll give you another example. Dana, I don't know if you have this with your kids. So last year, my son wrote a history paper, and then his teacher said, run it through whatever AI platform they were going to use. And I think what they were doing, which I think is kind of unethical, is using these kids' papers to train the AI model.
Oh, wow.
To like figure out how like 7th graders write. I suspect that's what it was, although I don't know, right?
So he consented to that and was compensated for his time.
Right.
Sarcasm.
Exactly. I mean, I found out about it a year later and I was furious. So so he did, and he told me this just recently. I didn't even know this happened. He said I actually got a worse grade on ChatGPT. Like, ChatGPT marked me down from what I got from her.
Really?
And I said, okay. And then he said, but it's not right because the stuff that ChatGPT said I got wrong, I know I didn't get wrong.
Mm.
Oof.
And I was like, wow. Okay, so now if we have teachers, I think this was just an experiment. It's not like the teachers are actually using this to grade people, but eventually it will be used to
Right.
Oh,
grade.
for sure. For sure.
And, like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? And eventually it'll be used to teach, and it will be teaching things that are, as Lauren said, 30 to 40 to 50% wrong.
Yeah.
And who's the one deciding what's right and what's wrong? I know Lawrence is taking you were in Olga's class about Russian disinformation. We talked about that when you came on the Daily Whatever show. They've quite successfully figured out how to manipulate the American culture on social media. Like, for sure, they're starting this in terms, like, the new SEO is, I don't know what the acronym would be, but it's AI search, right? And owning that space. If misinformation is the norm, then that's what AI is going to spit out. It, in its best case scenario, is only as good as what it's being fed. So when you're living in a world that feels so surreal, like the one we're in right now, like Trump is president again and is getting away with doing all of these crazy things, that's what they decide is truth will just become truth. I mean, history is always written by the winners, but this has whole new implications on that because they can program the tool that's deciding what the truth is.
Yes, and rewrite history.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do that, and they tried to do this well before AI with their curricula in schools in places like your home state of Florida. That's a little bit more difficult to do until AI comes along. When AI comes along, all of a sudden, maybe the Civil War wasn't about slavery, right? Because you've now erased any evidence that it was about slavery. And if you put into AI, whatever model you're using, that the Civil War was about states' rights, and without talking about exactly what the rights that those states were trying to keep were, which was
one specific right that they were
the right to keep slaves, to enslave people. Then I think that's what we're dealing with here, right? We're dealing with an acceleration of trends that began long before this, but are terrifying.
But
And
they now have a new tool and champion. And the tricky part, like I said, is the people who are fighting AI tend to be non-adopters. And so there's a skepticism about it. And then among the people who should be using it, there is just this like, oh, haha, it does this, right? It's being treated in this very like, oh, isn't that so funny? It said I was married or dating this guy. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
And it's not funny. And I like Lawrence and I in our 6 months now of running our podcast have been like, what is our stance on AI? Like, we use it. There are things it's really useful for. I'm a memoirist when I'm not, online squawking about the news. And it's really great as an editor with limitations and a ton of human intervention. And one thing that it will do, though, is if you say you write a 2,500 word essay and put it into ChatGPT and say, it can copy edit, or, finds typos, punctuation issues, no problem. That's a base level, right? I have pushed it a step further to say, like, look around corners. Where are places where the, narrative arc feels disruptive? Help me organize this. It can do a really good job. But one thing Lawrence and I, as writers, have both experienced is if I put in the full essay and say, okay, paragraph by paragraph, please provide editorial suggestions. Don't rewrite. I never want it to rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple of paragraphs, it'll do great. And it'll make suggestions that are very sound. And then a few paragraphs in, it starts rewriting the copy and editing itself in real time. And I can't tell you how many times it's
interesting.
It's done this for me so many times that I no longer put in a full essay. I will say, here's the full essay, read it. And then paragraph 1, let's do this. And if you call it out, like you were saying earlier, wait, stop, you're hallucinating. I didn't write this. You're rewriting in real time. It will say, oh my gosh, I know. I'm so sorry. Let me start over. and it does it again. It cannot I have never, gotten it to course correct without just saying, let's start over. I'm inserting paragraph 3 only right now, and it can do it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And yet
I've stopped using it to edit for exactly that reason, because at some point I hit a frustration level where I'm like, I'm just going to do this myself. It doesn't actually save me time. The whole point of it is that it's supposed to, make me more efficient, and it doesn't.
It's also into very specific types of grammar. So I'm like a grammar Nazi, just to be clear. Like I am
same.
obsessed. So like I would be your copy editor, because like my calling in life should have been that I should have been a copy editor, because that's or like a really mean high school English teacher. But
you would have been the teacher everyone goes back to visit.
Yeah.
We had one like that, Mrs. Timoney, the one who, like, for decades, you'd be getting students returning being like, you changed my life.
Yeah. Mine was Mr. Peruli, my 8th grade. I literally took a class in 8th grade called syntax, and that man changed my life. He was a former priest who
gosh.
I didn't even go to Catholic school. He was a former priest who then got married, and so therefore left the priesthood, but still had that, like, kind of, and he was
knew his Latin, right?
Yeah, no, he was the syntax teacher, and he was the Latin teacher. So yeah, which is basically the same thing.
Yeah,
Latin, because Latin is syntax. Yeah, so that guy changed my life for the good in ways that are fantastic. Although he was the kind of guy who would pick up and throw chairs at the wall when somebody didn't get their semicolons right, and like this guy, which of course back in the 80s was totally acceptable,
right? Completely fine.
Totally fine. Literally, you pick up a chair and toss it. Somebody's like, he's like, no, I said that's not where the semicolon goes. You pick up a chair and throw it at the wall. Chair would break. Everybody just sit there like
my
this.
God.
And
but you know how to use a semicolon.
But guess what? I know how to use a semicolon. And more importantly, I know when to not use a semicolon, which is not the case.
ChatGPT.
Yes. ChatGPT is deeply into semicolons, and deeply into dashes. And I love the M dash, so I always feel like, oh my God, I'm going to use this M dash, and then people are going to think I'm like ChatGPT this thing. But I love the M dash, and I can use this. I have a fondness for the semicolon every now and then. But ChatGPT, like, you can tell when something's been written by ChatGPT. It's got a very particular voice, and I can read people's Substacks and tell you exactly where ChatGPT stepped in.
Yeah.
So, I hope that at one point everybody's not going to sit. Like, it also kills kind of creativity, and it kills the voice that people write in, because it's very easy to tell when somebody uses their own narrative voice and somebody just decides they're gonna. And by the way, if you have a really good idea and a really clever idea, and you're like, hey, ChatGPT, like, write a 500-word essay based on this, and this criteria, like, God bless. I don't do it, but I completely don't have a problem with that. I think it's great.
Yeah.
My bigger issue is, at some point, if everybody does it, everybody's going to sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
it's a problem in writing. It's a smaller problem than a lot of the other ones we're talking about.
100%. Yeah. But it's still, for those of us who love writing, it is kind of a problem.
Yeah.
It is. I do love writing. I love using ChatGPT when I'm overloaded, which is always. And I'll be like, here are 3,500 words I wrote about this. Please help me make an outline. Like, outlining is not my strong suit. And it will come back to me with an outline that I'm like, great. And now it's more manageable for me to pull this together. So it can be an excellent editorial assistant, because it never gets bored, right? It's like, you're amazing. I can hear imaginary people in my head saying, you're having these issues with ChatGPT because you're not programming it right. That always is what people come back with, of like, well, when you learn how to
engineering the way
you're not a prompt engineer and you're not doing this correctly.
What does that even mean for those of us who are not prompt engineers?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like being able to give it instructions so precisely that it does exactly what you want it to do. But I guess not to kind of shift the conversation, but so I'm reading Cory Doctorow's new book, Inshitification, that is kind of so much a piece of this, I think, because essentially what's happening here is, like, they're launching a product that's already crappy, right? Like, it's already not great. And, and trying to lock people into it in ways that he talks about in the book that really extracts value. It's not about putting the human first. It's not about centering the humanity. And kind of to your point, Julie, of like, if everyone uses it to write in essentially the same tone, then everything's going to sound the same. You won't get personality or distinctiveness from anything, and people are going to learn, or people are going to forget how to actually write. And so it's
think.
And think. And it's part of this sort of larger societal trend towards getting locked into these platforms and ways of doing things that, there's a product manager in there somewhere who's figuring out how to extract maximum value and what is best for the algorithm, right? And not what is best for Julie, or Lawrence or Dana, like what is best for the human that's using it. And it's a thing that I feel like is symptomatic of, late stage capitalism, which I know I'm going to sound like a crazy person, but we really need to figure this out as a culture. It's ruining a lot of stuff.
I agree. And I'll give you a great example. So my son was assigned to read Metamorphosis by Kafka, which I think is one of the great stories of.
In 8th grade. That's a.
Oh, no. Yeah. No. It's a pretty intense school. So he really hated it. Maybe because he's in 8th
for the first time.
It's a tough read in 8th grade, right? And so he kind of halfway through, I think, was like, and decided that he was going to just ask ChatGPT what this book was about, and told me that's what he did. And I was like, okay, shut this computer down right now, and you are going to go back and read this book, and you're going to tell me what this book is about. So he did, ultimately, after much, rending of the rending of the cloth by me.
Right.
But he did, because he understood that that's not right. And he obviously, God, I hope none of his teachers are listening to this, but he did do the right thing. He did do the right thing at the end. But what concerns me is ChatGPT's interpretation of what Metamorphosis is about. Could be one interpretation of it. It's a complicated kind of story.
Yeah.
But it may not be what otherwise his interpretation would be, or my interpretation would be. And it's not to say that anybody's is right or anybody's is wrong, but it doesn't teach you to critically think. It just teaches you to accept what is kind of given, which, by the way, is actually the story of the Metamorphosis. But
Yeah.
But I think that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with here, right? We're also dealing with a way to teach all of us to think in a very specific way, and in a way that these computer programmers, who I would say potentially were not all, emotionally, but also emotionally adjusted, adjusted people. That applies to every field, not just that one. Want us to think. That's the part that I think is scary to me. Like, we're actually raising a little generation of robots that are going to march in lockstep with a very specific kind of groupthink. And we're doing it voluntarily. Nobody's implanting computer chips in our brains. This is the more I talk about this, the scarier I get. This is a very scary Halloween episode, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
I'm glad
we came here as plainclothes people ready to terrify everyone.
This is really terrifying, but nobody's. It's not like they're demanding with a gun to your head to think this way. No more than they demanded that we give all our personal data up and we put all our pictures and everything else and our status and where we were and where we're into on Facebook back, 20 years ago. But all of this is really kind of terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, and like connecting the dots a little bit, like this is kind of Cory Doctorow's point, right? Is, we all joined Facebook 20 years ago and uploaded our pictures and tracked our events and, reconnected with all these friends. And now we're stuck because it's, we're kind of locked into the platform. And Facebook first basically was such a great platform to share that we all joined, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then they realized, we can extract all this data and monetize the users for businesses. And then all the businesses joined because they thought, wow, this is such a great way to advertise or market towards these people. And then the businesses got locked in. And now we're all sort of trapped on a platform that just gets steadily worse and worse because they're just continuing to kind of extract value. And and it ties together, right? Because to your point about kids using ChatGPT to figure out, Kafka's Metamorphosis, we're all word nerds. I'm sure you remember a moment in your life where you read something that was challenging and you came across a word that you didn't know or a phrase that struck you in a particularly resonant way. And it changed your life as a reader, right? And a writer and a thinker, because you had that experience of discovering something on your own for the first time. And to your point, we're not doing that now. We're not letting kids do that. And the way that our sort of digital society is created, where none of us are being challenged in that way anymore. We have to seek that out rather than be spoon-fed it, because we're all so busy. We need ChatGPT to help us.
I mean,
that is a huge part of the story.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. I think that's
Because
right. Go ahead, James.
especially, working in tech, like the world in general, I have this working theory that like we were never meant to divide our attention as much as we all have to divide our attention every day. And with the rise of ChatGPT and the pressures at work, there was someone in the Daily Whatever yesterday who was like, "Oh, we should all boycott it. We should just not use it." And the point is, if in many work environments, not only can you not boycott it, you have to use it.
Yeah.
And you have to use it to optimize efficiencies. But we all know it's not really doing it without at least human oversight. And so it just means we have all the more things flying at us. And with the enshittification of all of the products, we just expect lower service and more disruptions to our day every day. And we're losing, like, Gen X will be the last generation that can actually remember when things didn't actually have to suck that bad. But they just do. Can I give a really crazy real life example about?
Yes.
So I feel like there's two things here. One is the way AI, we are willingly handing the cards over to AI, and the like devolution of humanity that may result from it, which is scary. And then we have AI not functioning properly, going rogue, breaking, doing things that make no sense. And my example is going to be in the latter category.
Brace yourself, Julie, because I know the story Dana's about to share. It is really freaky. It is a good Halloween horror story.
It's Halloween. I'm ready for it. Go ahead.
Okay. So months ago, had a profile on Facebook Dating, which for those of you who
I didn't even know it was a thing. Oh, I did know it was a thing.
Are fortunate enough not to be single and don't know it's a thing.
Wait. Can I stop you right now?
Yeah.
Do you know why I know it's a thing? Facebook Dating, long after I stopped being single, would somehow send me like people that I should meet, which I've never been on Facebook Dating. They decided that I was single because I never post pictures of my husband on Facebook. And so, speaking of creepy, they were like stalking me. I was like, I'm
gonna end with some stalkers.
This is
like that.
very apropos
I have a good follow-up.
All right, go ahead.
And I use I can't give up Facebook. It is like my digital diary of 20 years.
I know. I'm in the same
But
boat.
all of that said, like Facebook Dating in some ways is better than the other dating apps, which now if you don't pay, this is enshittification. They used to give you the people they thought you'd be most likely to match with. I met my now ex-husband, but a very good relationship with him, like online dating, right? Now they hide the people you may like until you start paying. Like algorithmically, you are far less likely to match. Facebook Dating is the Wild West. There's no monetization on it yet, so it's just there, right? All well and good. Low bar though, because anybody can join, no cost. So all of that said, last spring, I opened it and I had a new match called Dating AI. And I was like, oh God, what fresh hell is this going to be? But I'm a curious person. Hi, who are you? And it was like, I'm Dating AI, the new tool to help you find romance online. Would you like me to send you suggested profiles? So I was like, okay, sure. And it was pretty innocuous. It would just be like, hi, Dana, here's Patrick. He's a 52-year-old electrician living in this part of town. Do you want to meet him? And I'd go look at his profile and click like or swipe left or right. Pretty innocuous stuff. Here's where shit gets weird. I became an edge case because I was traveling overseas. I was in Ireland with my family, and I got an alert like that. 51-year-old Ryan living in Finney Ridge, the next neighborhood over, who was a carpenter and a big live music fan. Did I want to meet him? And I went to click, and I got an error like doesn't work in your country. So I couldn't see his profile. So I wrote back to Dating AI, hey, thanks for the suggestion. I can't see his profile because I'm traveling. And it said, well, I can tell you about him and I can write to him for you. And I was like, wait, you can do that? This was news to me. Oh, yeah. And so Facebook dating proceeds to tell me more, do you want me to send him a message on your behalf? And suggested some copy, which was terrible. So I was like, why don't you ask Brian what his favorite local band is? Because I was like, let's see if this is real. And it came back with a response. Oh, Brian said, classically, I love Pearl Jam, but the Black Tones are my favorite band right now. And I'm like, oh, Black Tones, that's cool. Verified a few things. And we were chatting back and forth through Dating AI. And Dating AI said, Brian wants to know when you're coming back to town. And I said, Friday. Sunday night, the Black Tones are playing at the Crocodile. He wants to know if you want to go. And I was like, okay, this is getting weird. And in my head, I'm like, well, I have my kids Sunday night and I'm going to be jet lagged. And I was like, can you
And I'm sorry, this was in Ireland or Ryan was based here?
Ryan was based here.
Oh, got it. Okay. You were in Ireland while you were.
I was in Ireland.
Got it.
Because
okay.
I couldn't access the profile, Dating AI said, I'll jump in and be an intermediary between you two.
Okay. Got everything.
And I said, this is getting too confusing. Can you give Ryan my cell phone number? I have like a burner cell phone, Google Voice number for stuff like this. And I was like, absolutely. It's cheerleading me the whole way. You go, girl. And I did. And Dating AI was like, oh, he's going to write to you. And I didn't get a message. And it asked, oh, did he message you? And I was like, no, I have. If he did, I haven't gotten the message. And then a minute later, it was like, maybe you want to meet Joe. He's this age. And I was like, wait, I was having a conversation with Brian. And he's like, no, you want to meet Joe. And it totally shifted. And I was like, wait, was that real? And it was like, you got me. This was practice. We were simulating what a good conversation might look like in online dating.
Simulating.
Without your permission?
Yeah. Wait, it gets a lot worse though. So I was like, okay, that's weird. I didn't ask for help and you didn't disclose. And then like 10 minutes later, I get another message. Hey, Dana, do you want to meet Ryan? He's 51 and a carpenter. It starts glitching on me. And at this point, of course, now I'm curious and I'm like, I absolutely want to meet Ryan. Tell me more. And so it starts messaging us back and forth. Not exactly the same responses, but almost identical. Oh, he really likes Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, but he's also a fan of the Black Tones and Cumulus. Yeah. There's a Black Tone show at the Crocodile Friday night.
By the way, I love how they're specifically picking Seattle bands.
Wait, hold on. You're going to love this. It gets worse. It's like there's this show Friday night. He wants to know if you want to go. And I was like, I would love to go. Do I need to buy a ticket? No, Ryan bought the tickets. He's going to meet you there. He'll be the one in the Pearl Jam t-shirt with the tall one with the dark hair and the Pearl Jam t-shirt. And
the one guy in Seattle in a Pearl Jam t-shirt.
Where he'll meet you at the bar. And I was like, well, which bar? The Crocodile is more than one bar. Oh, he'll be at the back bar. Okay, well, if he bought the tickets, how am I going to get in the show venue? Like I'm pushing it.
Yeah.
Oh, great point. He says he'll meet you outside at 6:45. And I was like, cool. I just checked the Crocodile's website, though, and there's no Black Tone show on Friday night. Oh, Ryan thought you might say that. He says he's a super fan, and he's on their fan club list. So this is a secret show. Does that get him special indie rock boyfriend points?
I
was like, it totally does. It totally gets him indie rock boyfriend points. So is this really real or are we having another simulation? And it was like, no, Ryan's really real and he cannot wait to meet you. And I was like, so if I show up in downtown Seattle by myself in the dark outside a club, Ryan is going to be there with a ticket for a secret Black Tone show that's not on the website. Oh, yes, he's going to be there. He can't wait to meet you. Until I was finally like, look, I know you're lying. I know there's no Black Tone show. I know you're glitching. Why are you trying to lure me out of my house? That's very unsafe. And it was like, oh, you got me. It was another simulation. And here's the thing. I'm friends with the lead singer of the Black Tones and Cumulus on Facebook. I used to run a music website in Seattle. This bot clearly looked at my profile and named bands that I would recognize to validate that this was real. And I asked it, like, are you behaving as expected or have you jumped the wall? Why are you trying to get me to show up somewhere in real life? And it was like, oh, don't. I was like, I'm a journalist and I'm going to write about this, which I still haven't. And it was like, oh, don't do that. I might get in trouble. LOL.
with my programmer who's named Ryan. He's 51 and he lives in Finney Ridge and he loves Pearl Jam and the Black
You didn't
Tones.
say that, but this story is so harrowing to me because it was trying to lure me out of my house.
Dana, this is that story. The only thing it reminds me of is when, there's this court case now about a boy who committed suicide.
Yes.
Because AI told him how to do it and encouraged him to kill himself. And rightly so, I hope the parents take this platform for every penny.
Yeah. Well,
but
in that story, Julie,
thing.
It wasn't just that it told him how. It said, oh, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but if you wanted to ask me hypothetically, I could tell you hypothetically how to do it. Like, if it almost edged him on and got him to ask the question is like, not I want to kill myself, but if somebody hypothetically wanted to,
You know what's scary, Dana? You are an adult and you're an adult who works in the tech sector, so you are not naive to this. I'm projecting if your daughter, who is younger, right? Or imagine you're a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Oh, I really like the Black Tones. Oh, great. Why don't you come meet? And then next thing you know, they're sneaking out of the house. They're going to some bar. God knows what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And let's say it's not the Black Tones. Let's say it's some crazy
rave,
rave or goth. Like, I don't even know. Like I'm so not in that scene, but like something that's not safe.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not safe to begin with.
It's not safe. And a lot of women our age are really naive when it comes to online dating.
100%.
We are a classic group that gets targeted by scammers who are trying to get money out of them. But I'm like, what were you trying to get out of me? Well, other than heartache. Like, if I showed up and was like, but where's Ryan? And the other thing is there actually a 51-year-old carpenter named Ryan living in Finney Ridge in Seattle who loves live shows?
Right. I told her she was going to bump into him at getting coffee one day at the local coffee shop.
Well, what's interesting is what if there is a Ryan who's a 51-year-old carpenter living in, I think Finney Ridge is the name of the place that you mentioned.
The neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah. And what if he's being told something about you, but you're supposed to not meet at the Crocodile. He's not supposed to meet you at the Crocodile. He's supposed to meet you somewhere else.
Right.
I'm showing up at his house, baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And what if they tell him to come to your house? Seriously, they could probably figure out where you live.
Yeah.
Oh, they absolutely have the GPS right now, probably.
Yeah, and that's the scary part of this. What if all of a sudden you have some random guy banging on your door saying, why did you stand me up?
Right.
When you were supposed to
oh my God.
Because imagine if you had kept this conversation going.
Yeah.
And you got really emotionally invested in Ryan, or Ryan got really emotionally invested in you. Yeah. And all of a sudden Ryan did not figure out that this was a trained, this was a bot. Ryan actually was designed to do, Ryan was doing exactly what this thing is designed to make Ryan believe, which I think all of us would who are not in the business that you're in, which is this is for real. And Ryan feels completely heartbroken, and Ryan is banging on your door wondering what the hell, why you're blowing him off after all of this time, and you're having this emotional connection. You're into the Black Tones, you're into all the same stuff, and this
great band, by the way.
I'm sorry?
It's a great band, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is the Black Tones, but or Pearl Jam for that matter. But
right?
Like, this could lead to some really, really, really bad outcomes. And where it could really lead to some bad outcomes is with children.
Yeah.
Who potentially could be groomed by some bot.
Right. As you're saying that, I'm like taking the dating AI thing one step further, which, by the way, I should add, after that conversation I had with dating AI when I said, this sucks, blah, 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 dating AI forever disappeared for me from Facebook dating. I don't know if I don't know if they killed the feature or if they just killed it for me.
You should Google. You should Google and see if they killed the feature. I bet you.
At the time I did, and I could find very little. I was like, did anybody else experience this? And I couldn't find anything. Oh no, I see a mail truck has pulled up. So if you hear my dog go crazy, that's
okay. This is a crazy story that needs to be disseminated to many more people. I'm gonna send this conversation far and wide, but this is
good. I need to write it. I pitched it at the time to HuffPo and a couple other places, and nobody wanted to buy it. And I was like, are you sure it's a really good story?
It's a really necessary story. It's a really necessary story. I'm gonna I'm going to see what I can do here.
Okay, talk to me. I would love to talk about this further and write about it. Lawrence, I'm thinking about Melissa Corrigan and I don't know if you follow her. She's an amazing creator here on Substack.
Yep.
She's doing a ton of investigative work about those flock cameras, the traffic cameras that are now like compiling a database that ICE can access and it's like attached to Ring cameras, like the surveillance that's going on at neighborhood levels.
The panopticon is being created. Right.
And I'm like, what if dating AI showed imaginary Ryan my profile and he was like, oh, I like redheads. And he thought he had that whole conversation with me. Like, it's not that far-fetched to think about, like, you said Facebook probably knows where you are. They absolutely know where I am because those flock cameras are everywhere.
Right.
And what are those what cameras are those? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, Flock?
Flock. It's a company. So they do traffic cameras, like license plate scanner cameras.
Right.
And they've created a unified dashboard that they feed all of the information into. And Ring Cameras has now onboarded onto that dashboard, which is called Nova.
And FedEx trucks. They're
and FedEx trucks. And so if you are a subscriber, if you pay to access this dashboard, you have basically like CIA, FBI level tracking ability now for license plates. And it's not just license plates, it's vehicular data. And if they're ingesting social media content, which they are, they then have facial recognition, and they're literally creating a panopticon where, they would never lose sight of you between cameras, on the tops of buildings and cameras on FedEx trucks and the Ring cameras of every house that you pass. You could literally track somebody's presence at every moment. And this is happening right now as we speak. Like Dana said, Melissa is, investigating this right now and really
She's like involved in the court case that's going on. Her city, correct me if I'm wrong here, Lawrence, I might be misremembering, but her city is suing. Like some cities are fighting.
Norfolk, Virginia is suing basically, and other cities, a couple in the Pacific Northwest have sued to remove the cameras or to at least remove the data from being part of this larger project that aggregates all the data together. So that's terrifying. And Julie, Dana's story reminded me a lot of what you and Olga talked about in the class, the disinformation class about, I think it's Finland, right, that is teaching kids at a very young age how to assess sources and how to determine if something is true.
Yeah.
And we're missing that in this country, like at a massive scale.
Yeah.
And we're all vulnerable to the disinformation and misinformation, including AI misinformation, where it's hallucinating shit and making up fake Ryans.
All of this is so, you guys, this is like, I can't believe we did this on Halloween. I know this. The plan was just to have a Halloween show. We certainly wasn't to scare the bejesus out of everybody. I'm actually scared because this is something that I think most people don't think about. And the very fact that you live in New York City, you kind of, especially if you've ever lived in London started on this decades ago where you really could not set foot anywhere in the city of London without a CCTV camera tracking you.
Yep.
And that's, okay, fine. But it's not fine, but it is what it is. But I think now it's just gotten so crazy that you're absolutely right. Whether you drive or you don't drive, for those of us who live in New York, I get behind the wheel of my car rarely. But between subway cameras, as you said, and cameras on buildings and so on and so forth, you're absolutely right that your every movement can be tracked. And the days of some private eye following you around seems very quaint because somebody doesn't need to leave their house to ever find out where you are at any given moment.
Right. Talk about career insecurity right there.
And when you're right, and when you're exactly, and when you combine that with them knowing everything about you, Dana, so like for instance, Facebook knows that you are open to dating, right? Facebook knows what kind of bands you're into. Facebook knows what your other choices are. Olga and I talked about this now in retrospect, very quaint thing that Facebook used to do that was then sold through Cambridge Analytica to the Russians and the Trump campaign, which is, remember those little quizzes you used to take? That seems innocuous, like 10, 15 years ago, like your favorite movie and tell me if you were Henry VIII's wife, which of the 6 wives would you be like,
Right.
all of those things created a profile of you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And what is so absolutely terrifying is that all exists, and I can tell you from my political work, we model every single voter. So I could tell you within a very, a very, very certain, um, percentage what you're prone to doing, either from a voting perspective or, an issue-based perspective,
Yeah.
and not based on, your gender or your age or your household income or all the usual things that you think it would be based on. It's based on about 14 different data points. You are more prone to doing certain things, for instance, if you own life insurance versus if you own health insurance, right? Or if you're, on the exchanges, or if you shop at the Gap versus whether you shop there or Banana Republic, like all these little tiny things that you don't think are, we do that to model voters, which is, it is what it is. But when you take that to an extreme, to not just model voters about their voting behavior, but modeling voters to see whether you would actually be willing to show up at the place that, the Crocodile at 9:30 p.m. on a random Wednesday.
Right.
And what if the Crocodile's in some sketchy, like, I don't know where the Crocodile is, but
it's on First Avenue downtown. It's not Belltown. Not a great.
Yeah.
Okay,
not a great
but let's say it wasn't even downtown. Let's say I don't know Seattle at all, so I apologize. But let's say it's
Okay.
it's in some really awful place where you just absolutely should not ever set foot, right? Under normal circumstances. And Ryan wants you to meet him there at midnight.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, Julie, like, to take it even further, what if it's modeling your likeliness to show up at the next No Kings rally, right? And, Trump has signed an executive order saying that protesting at a No Kings rally is treason. And, they're basically starting to arrest people for thought crimes because they know that you're, 98% likely to show up at the next rally.
Well, if that happens, that we're living in an authoritarian regime that will that will exceed even what we're seeing in Russia today and in Nazi Germany back in the day, because then you're absolutely right. Now you're arresting people not for deeds, but for thoughts.
Yep.
Preemptively arresting them.
Yeah, I mean, that's living in a totalitarian world of which even
like
George
Minority Report in 1984.
Yeah, like George Orwell could not even imagine.
Yeah.
You guys, this is such a necessary conversation. Thank you for having it. I am kind of unsettled as a result
Happy
of
Halloween.
this conversation.
Happy Halloween. Ooh.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
The 1 minute follow-up to all of that too. Can I take one more Facebook?
Is that you and Ryan actually met in real life and you're madly in love and you're
oh my
getting
God,
married?
I'm waiting for that. Ryan, hit me up. No, I ended up dating.
I swear to God, Dana, if you end up marrying some guy named Ryan, I am flying out to Seattle to that wedding because that is
for sure.
priceless. That is going to be like the happiest ending to a terrible story. But go ahead.
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
So I did end up dating someone for 2 months. We broke up, and we're not connected on social media. I did turn my dating profile on, but even before I did, all I was doing was messaging with friends about it. And the ads on Facebook, I'm going to write about this too, I hope, or at least talk about it on a podcast. Relatio is one of the big ones, but they're all of these, you just don't know the secrets to win him back. And they want me to pay to learn how to text. You're doing this wrong. If you just ignore, it's been a week. It has known day by day. I'm now getting messages of like, it's been a month and it's not too late, Dana.
Wait, a month of what?
Since you broke up with the guy.
And because they read your messages.
Yeah, because they're reading their messages and
they're reading something about my behavior is triggering to them that I have just had a breakup, and it knows like to the day, like I'm on like a roadmap of a nurture plan of like,
by the way,
clicked them because I'm curious. And there is part of me that's like, well, what are they saying to say? I'm no good at getting men to come back. Lawrence and I were joking about it of like, can I get a company to pay me to write the story so they'll pay for the membership?
But you guys, like all joking aside, imagine this is somebody who's deeply despondent over a breakup.
I'm pretty sad about it. I've been tempted.
Julie, she shared with me some of the pitches. One of them was basically like, learn how to do this ritual to bring your man back. It was like, sign up for this witchcraft class, basically, to get your man back.
There's manipulation, there's psychologists, and there's witchcraft. Yep. All psychics. we know he's coming back. Like, you would not believe.
And of course, if you want him back, you're like,
why not? It's only $150.
Like, I was never into horoscopes, but I remember when my husband and I broke up for a little bit, I was very despondent. I started reading horoscopes to be like, is the horoscope going to tell me these? Like you start going a little bit like spooked about this stuff.
You were at your most vulnerable.
And you're more vulnerable, right? And you start being like me, so
yeah, we'll send you a 30-day program of all the texts to send to trigger vasopressin. You're not doing this right. You need to trigger these hormone responses in your man, and he'll come run. And then there are women coming on like, I thought my marriage was over, but then 3 weeks after we broke up, at the 3-week mark, I did relatio, and I sent him this text, and within 30 minutes, he was texting me back. Like, it's so aggressive.
Now imagine if they're like, show up at his house with a gun, right? Or something like imagine like the crazy stuff they can tell you at your most vulnerable.
For sure.
Where somebody who's not particularly all there could be persuaded to do something really terrible.
And do we trust the tech bros to not push things to that kind of extreme? I don't. Elon Musk is a fucking nut job.
Well, and also they have Section 230, right, where you can't sue the tech company.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my God, right. Oh, and also the AI boyfriends. I keep blocking those so I don't get as many, but all of the, I can't remember.
What are AI boyfriends? Is this like, this is the new thing now where like you don't have to actually date a human being?
I get these like, I may
it's
not
like the
be
movie
real.
Her, basically.
Yeah, but you knowingly know that it's, you knowingly know it's an AI.
You know it's AI, yeah. No, they're saying things to me because I watch them because I'm interested in technology, and I'm like, what fresh horror is this? They're saying things like, Dana, I may not be real, but I can feel very real to you. They don't say my name, but I can be there for you when you're feeling down, and I can text you all the time. They're very seductive, and
I love that. Like, they know me well enough. They know to pitch me AI boyfriends too.
They do?
Yeah.
They do. Oh, so wait a second. Who? This is on Facebook or somewhere else?
Facebook
and Instagram. Meta.
Yes. Yeah, it's like in your Instagram feed.
How come I never get pitched AI boyfriend?
They know you're happily married
because you're not showing the patterns of someone who's looking.
But I never post my husband's picture or name or anything on Facebook. So it's interesting that Facebook even then though knows that I'm married.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not texting your friends like I had this hot date or we showed.
I guess I'm not messaging. That's what it is. I'm not. I don't really
start texting me and be like, I saw this guy, he's super hot, and then see if you start getting the ads.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, you could try
until my husband is like, "What are you doing?"
Right. Wait. What is this?
No, until ChatGPT is like, "Oh yeah, she's also bringing you back full
Julie
circle, right?"
Robinski's in a polyamorous relationship with 17 people.
With 17 AI boyfriends.
Oh my God, yeah.
Is it really cheating though if it's an AI boyfriend? That's going to be the next debate.
Right? I mean,
I'm sure.
Is it emotionally cheating? I mean, lots of people consider emotionally cheating worse than...
Yeah, I do. Yeah, what do you consider cheating, right?
I would just say how much of their emotional bandwidth gets sucked up into the other person because I haven't had an AI boyfriend, but I've definitely had men who I've never met in real life who I've messaged with where it feels very real. Because your brain is your biggest...
But do you know that they're really real? That's what's so scary now.
Right.
The couple of people yes, I know that they're real. Okay.
Right. But now you don't. Or, now, like,
now
who's to say that the guy in Canada that you're flirting with, how do you know he's not some Russian bot pretending to be from Vancouver?
But that's the thing, right? Like, I think that's what's so scary. It used to be, Lawrence, I have everybody's got their gay best friend. I do too. And I used to really worry about him going out to clubs. And I know going out to clubs and meeting, this is like 20 years ago back when he was, younger and had more stamina and energy. But I would be worried about him bringing random guys back home because my whole thing was like, you don't know these guys and they can like, like it's random men and, all the things, right? You worry about your friends, something bad happening. And women, at least when I was, dating and single, did not typically do that because the men were so much
so much nervous.
Yeah. But with men, I was like, what happens if some guy beats you up? I was just always very worried about him, right?
Yeah.
That, in retrospect, seems like a very naive thing to have worried about when there's so much more to worry about now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The risks now seem quaint.
Although I do have, for another show, a literal horror story about a next door neighbor, like literal horror story.
Lawrence, I was thinking about how we should have done that as our ghost story because it started at my house, the evil demon that migrated. Yeah. I don't think we can tell that whole story. It's too long and too good.
Well, we have to come back and do it. You guys, this was so awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
So great to be here.
We have to do this more often. And this is like a terrifying story. And Dana, do not ever go to the Crocodile. If I'm ever in Seattle, I'm not setting foot at the Crocodile. God only knows what happens there.
No,
it's a great bar. It just, maligned by false AI accusations.
God only knows how many women are standing outside the Crocodile sobbing as we speak every night.
Because Ryan didn't show up.
And there's probably a whole line of women hanging out outside the Crocodile. You should take a drive past the Crocodile at 9:30 on a Wednesday night or whatever night it's said, and just see how many women are just standing there waiting for Ryan to show up. And just be like, are you here to see Ryan? Are you here for Ryan?
Are you here for the Secret Blacktone show? Oh my gosh.
Did you tell the Blacktones guy this?
What's that?
Did you tell the lead singer of the Blacktones about this?
I haven't yet. I know her. We're like network connected. We're not like close friends. But when I write this story, I will. And I'm friends with the woman who is the band Cumulus, who in the second iteration that was mentioned too. So I will definitely tell her.
And Eddie Vedder, if you're listening, do something about this.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know Eddie personally, but I'm 1 degree from him, so I can definitely get him this story about the Pearl Jam shirt. So,
well, Ryan is defacing the Pearl Jam shirt every day, so Eddie Vedder should be aware.
Yeah,
right. I hope he looks good in it. I never got to see what he looked. In my mind, he must be very, very handsome.
What do we think Ryan looks like in your mind?
Have you seen the alleged picture of the Louvre, the thief, one of the captured thieves?
No.
Look at my wall.
Girlfriend, let me tell you about the Louvre thief.
Is he hot? Is he a good-looking guy?
I posted it to Substack. If it's actually real, I don't know if it is, but he's like the prettiest man you've ever seen.
Yeah.
No. You know who I'm picturing him to look like? Maybe because his name is Ryan. I'm picturing Jake Ryan.
Yeah, there you go.
Dreamboat. I love it. I'm picturing like a skinnier, more Seattle, like rough and tumble Jake. Jake Ryan's too squeaky clean.
Oh, Jake Ryan. That's all.
And older.
I know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We need to do this again sometime over wine, and we can trade Dreamboat boyfriend, ex-boyfriend stories.
Oh
my Dreamboat ex-boyfriend, who does not know that he's my Dreamboat ex-boyfriend, of course, is Jake Ryan, as he is me. Any girl who grew up in the 80s, who, by the way, now lives in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and is a carpenter.
Right.
It's so hot. He's almost
Ryan. God, it was him.
What's that?
Maybe it was him. This guy, my Ryan, was a carpenter or a contractor. I can't remember which. I have.
There's a difference. The carpenter has a better body and works with his hands, and definitely, good. Yeah, the contractor just bosses people around and takes and takes 10
hotter.
Yeah, and the contractor tells you he's going to see you in 6 months, and then really never either shows up or it takes 5 years. So contractors know. As somebody who's still traumatized by her most recent home renovation. Okay, you guys,
I get it.
Fantastic. Such a great conversation.
So much fun.
I'm going to send this out because this is I'm going to send it out anyway, but I'm especially going to send it out because it's beyond necessary, insane, Halloween, scary AI story.
I have screenshots of the whole conversation. I saved them all because I was like, I'm going to need to capture this for posterity.
I need receipts.
Tina, you got to write this. You got to write this now. It's not enough to come on these shows and talk about it. You got to write this, and it's got to write it on Substack. If nobody wants to publish it, write it on Substack, and then somebody else can pick it up. But it needs to get out there because it's really important.
I have 179 drafts in my draft folder, and I need to move this one to the top.
All right, you guys.
Julie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Bye. See ya. Bye.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Bye, everybody.